The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
You can lift your weights, you can run your miles, but you ain't got what's been earned through trials. It ain't in the gym, ain't in the youth, it's in busted knuckles and hard-lived truth. Back's been sore since 99, but I still stack wood and I still outgrind. Call me slow, call me old, but I got hands that could bend pure gold. Ain't about muscle, ain't about speed, it's about the fire when the time comes to lead. You can talk real tough, you can flex real wide, but when it's time to dig in, boys, step aside. Old man strength, built to last, years of work, no need for class. Ain't no quit, ain't no doubt, you don't know tough till you've been worn out. Woke up stiff, but I'll shake it loose. Been swinging these hands since Reagan was news. Call it stubborn, call it pride, call it wisdom that just won't die.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Welcome everyone to another edition of Old Man Strength. I am Tim Johnson with Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing?
Oh, we're doing so much better now that you're on the lead of the mic. Well, this is going to be so great.
I tell you what, man, you have done a very admirable job of hosting. And I don't think people want to hear my voice any more than they want to hear yours. So I think
nobody wants to hear any of our voices. That's why we bring guests on.
Exactly. That is fair. The old joke I used to make was that I have a face for radio, a voice for silent films, and I don't even think my written word is that well. So, we're excited to bring you all another episode. Chris, how have you been?
Not too great. It's been super cold. I had to travel a lot for work. I was in Chicago last week. I'm starting to thaw out. I saw the forecast for later this week, and luckily it's going to get warm, so I can finally start to feel myself. So, and I'm going to be able to stack some weeks together trying to lose this weight. So I'm like 35 pounds away from my goal. So I feel like I can start stacking some good weeks of eating and going to the gym. So finally.
Hey, I tell you what, that is good. That is good to have goals. I don't even know what I'm weighing these days. And partly because I don't go to the doctor. So I can't be told that I need to lose a few pounds if I don't go. That's what I found. Ignorance is bliss when it comes to my health, is kind of my motto.
Yeah, that's not the way to go.
No, it is. It's
totally not the way to go.
It's not
Terrible
smart.
idea.
It's not smart. It's not healthy. But I believe that's what they call a coping mechanism. Is what I'm going with. Yeah,
that and whiskey.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, we are both repping our Revelton gear.
We are.
But I need to get back down there, or Chris, you got to get me a bottle shipped up here as well.
You can order. They ship now.
They
to
do.
40 to 42 different states.
But it would.
But I'd much rather have you come down here. We're having an event down there on the 28th. So
That's true. That's true. If I did not have traveling basketball 5 out of every 4 weekends of a month,
right, which
yeah.
is totally suck the rest of your life out. I get it.
Seriously, I was just telling someone today, like all of a sudden my Instagram algorithm is like, I don't know how it just got flooded with ice fishing memes, and it's making me very sad that I have not been able to go ice fishing or take my daughter ice fishing because when you've got basketball on both a Saturday and a Sunday like we had this past weekend, you don't make it out there. By the time you do get home, dealing with suburban parents and all that is involved with that, the games are the kind of the easy part. Like dealing with the parents might be the worst part of youth travel sports. But yeah, I'd like to get out there. So
We'll figure it out.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we need to bring our guest on because, like we said at the beginning, nobody's tuning in to listen to us. So today we're joined by Erin Kiernan. She's a familiar, trusted voice to viewers across Iowa, obviously from her time at WHO 13 News. Her career is span years of storytelling, community connections, showing up for people during both everyday moments and the ones that matter the most. And of course, over the past year, Erin has courageously used her platform to pull back the curtain on what the journey really looks like, the challenges and learning curves. So we're super excited to talk to her about where her story began, where she found her path in journalism, her motherhood, and where that's reshaped her perspective. And we're so excited to go ahead and have Erin Kiernan join Old Man Strength. We pre-apologize already, Erin, for the antics that we will have on the show.
I'm here for the antics. Look, you know who I worked with at Channel 13, right?
Oh, I'm aware. Yes, I'm aware.
Lots of antics.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so sorry. I know we were supposed to do this a week ago, and I bailed on you at the very last minute because I was so incapacitated. I honestly didn't even know what day it was. And then my daughter's piano teacher texted me, "Hey, is everything okay? Why are you guys not at piano lessons?" And I was like, oh my God, it's Monday and I'm supposed to do this thing. So anyway, we're here now. Thanks for
I get it. Well, I appreciate the fact that you've let me stalk you for probably the last 2 years to try to get you on the show. So
That was not.
I know stalking, and that is not stalking.
You're right. It was a couple nice emails. You're right.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that was a good way to kick this off, Chris.
This is why you don't let me host anymore, Tim.
Well, Erin, we do very much appreciate you coming on. Obviously, life gets in the way. I think we all know that very well. But thank you very much for joining us. Chris kind of mentioned before that we started this whole thing to kind of talk about the lessons we've learned over life. But we like to start things off, learn a little bit about Erin, about where you come from, kind of what your path is to where you got today.
Wow. Well, at this juncture, that's a long story. It started a long time ago. I was born and raised in a small town in northwest Nebraska, Chadron, Nebraska. And although I say, it's this teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere, for that part of the state, it's actually a pretty good sized town.
So about 12 people then.
12 people, yeah. No, that was my graduating class. No, you hear that from people a lot, right? Like I graduated with 10 people. So I bet, the population has fluctuated, but 6,000, 8,000, is about the population. There's a 4-year college there. Sports fans, football fans will know the name Don Beebe. He played college ball at Chadron State College. So that's like a person of note who is from there. There are not very many. So that is where I was born and raised. I'm an only child. My mom was a school teacher. My dad was an electrician, but they both came from agrarian backgrounds, farming, ranching. That's what all of our extended family did. So all of that is very familiar to me, even though I grew up in town, as we called it. So yeah, that's where I grew up. And then I ended up in Des Moines to go to school at Drake. So totally random.
Yeah. So tell me about that. What from Northwest Nebraska, 4-year school in town, as you say, options in Colorado, elsewhere. What brought you to Drake?
So I looked at a lot of different schools. I mean, I am very, very, very blessed. My parents doted on me. I was, spared nothing from, having my college paid for to, help buying cars and, all of that kind of stuff. So I have been spoiled throughout my life, frankly. And they had this nest egg put away for college. And so that coupled with a lot of the scholarship money that I was getting from different places, I could kind of choose where I wanted to go. So I looked at a lot of different schools, and I was specifically looking at journalism schools because I knew that that is what I wanted to major in. And frankly, I was kind of intimidated by some of the state universities that I looked at. I graduated actually with 75 people. So, still, small.
I should say larger than my graduating class in small town Iowa. So
how many were in yours?
69 students in my graduating class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
not terribly different, but yeah.
Yeah. So I looked at different state schools, looked at Mizzou. I looked at ASU. We have a ton of family in Arizona, and ASU has a really great journalism school. The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism is there. So, but on those campuses, I just felt like, oh, wow, this is like too much. And I had gotten a lot of information, a lot of mailings, a lot of contact from Drake. So we were, I think the summer before my junior year, making this kind of Midwest swing, looking at different places. And we visited Drake. And I had the chance to meet some professors and talk with students. And it just clicked for me. It just felt right. I liked the people. I liked the campus. I liked Des Moines. It was far enough away from home that my mom might just drop in, but it was not really high, So, it was a 10-hour drive across Nebraska to get here.
Which is really 18 then.
Oh my God.
It feels like 18. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Longest 10 hours of your life.
Right.
So, that's the story. It's nothing really earth shattering, but that's how it happened.
So let me ask you, sounds like you knew journalism was what you wanted right out of high school. I barely knew what I wanted to do when I got out of high school.
You still don't.
I still don't know what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. Just got to take a shot every time. That's right. Sorry.
I've changed my career 7 times, Chris. You know this.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But were you the kind of kid that just loved performing and storytelling? Is that where it came up with, or how did you develop that?
Totally. So I always hated math, sucked at math. I have like childhood trauma from, like I said, my mom's a teacher and I come from a long line of teachers, and I call it flashcard PTSD. Timer set on the microwave in the kitchen and, flashcards, because man, it was just not my strong suit. And I didn't like it. I didn't like anything about it, but I always loved reading and I always loved writing. And yes, I always loved performing. And then the other thing kind of woven in there is that my parents were always current event junkies. So every morning the TV was on, the Today Show was on. Every evening, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw was on. Our coffee tables were littered with, Newsweek, Time. My dad read the Omaha World Herald, every single page of it, every single day. So I think it was just sort of a melting pot of all of those things. I think my family thought it was really weird. They were like, "You want to what?" Like, okay. But always very supportive.
That's fantastic, especially from a community. I used to always joke that growing up in the 80s in small town Iowa was like growing up in the 70s everywhere else, because there was a little bit behind.
Yeah.
So where did your parents, because like Chris said, we started this talking about our dads. Where did your parents get that love of current events and keeping up with the news?
That's a really good question. I know in both of their families, just a high priority on knowing what was going on in the world and being educated. There are a lot of teachers in my family. Education was, a big priority, and a big emphasis was placed on education always. And so I think that was part of it. I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question. I think back then too, it was so different. I mean, we only had 3 channels on the TV, and they all went off the air at, midnight or whatever it was. And there was color bars and static, and, my parents certainly could have gotten other newspapers from around the country, but there was the Omaha World Herald, and that was it. And so everything is just so fractured and very divisive, obviously, right now. And you can kind of, cherry pick what information you want, and you can make sure that it all falls exactly in line with what you want to hear and what you want to believe and what you already subscribe to. So I don't know. Now you have me curious. I want to ask my mom and dad, why were you so interested in current events? Why did you think that was important?
My dad was dropped out when he was in 8th grade. He married my mom when she was 14, and they had kids. So, they didn't have any higher education or whatever. But I think my dad, I look back at my dad, he knew so much about politics. He knew so much about world events. He made sure that he was educated by doing those readings and things like that. And I think that maybe is the same thing. Like you said, your dad and your mom obviously was a teacher, so she was college educated. But I think for my parents, it was a lot of just wanting to know and searching that out. But there'd be times my dad would tell me things about politics and world politics and whatever. And the guy's got an 8th grade education. He's the smartest man I've ever met sometimes. Yeah. So
for sure.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
resonates with me. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that 24-hour news cycle that we have now. And I was trying to explain to a younger coworker that, no, the TV used to just stop.
Right. And there were only 3 options. Well, 4 if you count public television.
Yeah.
That was it.
There were 4 channels, and then you would hear the national anthem and then color bars on the TV, and then static after the color bars went away, and it was a loud beep. And people they're just very confused, right? Because we have everything at our disposal. Not only the 24-hour news on TV, but with the internet and the cell phones, and good Lord, I'm putting the old man strength right now. But the reality is you're right. Is I think people had to be more. We're such passive consumers of news and media right now, and you had to be more of an intentional, active consumer at the time. So I think that's fantastic that your parents instilled that in you. And so I love the idea that they encouraged you to explore this. Were you thinking when you went off to Drake, TV was the way you were going to go as far as journalism, or it was always TV?
Yeah, always TV. And here's a funny story. My college advisor very early on encouraged me to change my major and said that PR would be a better fit for me. And I was not cut out for television news. And back then, I was actually quite shy. And I still am, this will maybe surprise people, kind of an introvert. So like I can do the performance thing, but in person, and particularly like in groups, I sort of shrink and I get anxiety. And so I don't think I even pushed back on that. Like, why? Why do you think I should change my major? Why do you think I would not be good at this? But I was devastated. I mean, just like, crushed. So then what I did is I got a PR internship in Chicago for the summer, and I freaking hated it. I mean, every day. I loved Chicago. That was awesome, fun. Had an apartment close to Loyola, like in the Evanston area. Took the L every day downtown. Went to baseball games, went to the lake. Like, it was awesome. That whole experience was amazing and eye-opening and life-changing for a small town Nebraska kid. But the actual work in this office, I mean, the days could not have possibly gone more slowly. This was so bored.
Sure.
I hated it. So what was great about that is I came back with this renewed, no, I am not changing my major. This is what I want to do. And then my next internship was at Channel 13.
Okay. So if you were advising, let's say, a 19-year-old who was in the media now, what would you tell them that nobody told you?
Run! Run!
Because it's so different now. Like, is it because of some of the vitriolness that comes with journalism?
Yeah, and it's just, man, the world is just on fire right now. And toward the end for me, I mean, it was a really big melting pot of factors that led to me deciding to leave my job. But definitely part of it is, this whole line of, fake news and fake media, and you're, a liberal activist with an agenda, or you're a conservative activist with an agenda, and this blurring of the line as well, where, well, who is a journalist? Anybody with a cell phone? It's not like we are, we're credentialed, of course, for events and things like that, but it's not as if we go through some sort of bar exam or licensing or anything like that gives you, some sort of legitimacy in the field other than your body of work and where you've done it, and if people know you and trust you. So yeah, I was getting really sick every day of fielding all of, these really horrible, emails, direct messages, social media comments, all of it. It's like, the juice is just not worth the squeeze for me anymore, especially when the industry is being squeezed the way it is, and we have fewer and fewer resources, and, it's just all the things.
I'll say one thing as far as when you jokingly say run. I struggle with that in terms of similar to what people sometimes say to me when I'm on Twitter and I'm fighting for what I think is right and things like that, man, if the good people leave, then what's that leave? You know what I mean? So I can certainly understand why you do, but when people that you trust and that do the job right get so beat down that they have to leave, what is that? What's the void being filled with? And you hope that it's being filled with somebody that has the same fire and truthfulness. Does that make sense? Right?
It totally does. Yeah. And that's why, I mean, it took me, in fact, my husband and I were just talking about this earlier today. I can't remember exactly what the context was, but just that it took me a good 5 years probably to get there, 5 years of like, I can't keep doing this for this myriad of different reasons. Sure. And then also, I think a lot of people are afraid to say this, but there are a few things I am afraid to say. I will say all the things. And one of those is, I think in this business, in the TV business, it's very hard for people to divorce themselves from it because it's their whole identity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, well, who am I and what am I if not this? Because it's my whole persona. It is who I am and what I am. Right. And I think I know you want to talk about some of this. All of that for me under such a just massive shift in the past decade that also made me ready.
Well, that's what I want to get into. Let's take a quick break. We'll get a word from our sponsors here, and then we can get into the meat of what your decision was and why, and the primary reason why. And there's one question I want to ask about how you kind of went about it that I find interesting. So let's get a word from Revelton, Iowa Beef Steakhouse, styled by JJ Boutique. And Erin, I apologize. We have this Naked Dave's commercial that has a half-naked Willie Farrell in it. So I pre-apologize for this commercial coming up.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
In the heart of Des Moines, one name has stood above the rest: Iowa Beef Steakhouse. Step inside, and you enter a place where tradition still matters, where the atmosphere feels familiar, warm, and unmistakably Iowa. Service isn't rushed. It's personal, attentive, and rooted in genuine care. And before the main event, the freshest start in the city, our signature salad bar, crafted every single day. Then comes the reason people have returned for generations: Iowa beef, hand-seasoned with pride. Guided by flame, forged by heat. This is where flavor becomes legend. Served with the same care it was crafted with, a meal meant to be remembered. And whether the night calls for bold, smooth, or something in between, our bar offers a selection as rich as our history, including the old-fashioned we've become known for: balanced, timeless, unforgettable. And long after the fire cools, the glow of this place stays with you. Iowa Beef Steakhouse, 1201 East Euclid Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, where Iowa comes for steak, done right.
Gentlemen, let's be honest. Finding the perfect gift for your wife or girlfriend isn't always easy. You want something thoughtful, stylish, and unique. And that's exactly what you'll find at Styled by JJ Boutique. Julia Bradshaw and her team strive to be your go-to boutique for casual, boho, and chic clothing and accessories, helping women elevate their style one piece at a time. Located right here in Johnston, Iowa, Styled by JJ brings trendy, high-quality fashion that boosts confidence without breaking the bank. So, if you're looking for a gift that says, "I get you," instead of "I tried," head to Styled by JJ Boutique. Because nothing makes her smile like feeling beautiful. Styled by JJ Boutique, where style meets confidence. Visit our Johnston location or shop online at styledbyjjboutique.com.
Welcome back to Cooking with Billy and Willie. We're already in progress because great cooking doesn't wait. Today, we're turning things up with Naked Dave's seasoning and sauces.
You know, this chicken and the beef here and all this stuff is fantastic. It tastes fantastic with this Naked Dave stuff.
Oh yeah, dude, this barbecue sauce.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, that's why we're doing the commercial for Naked Dave's. That's why we're pretend like we're naked. We pretend like we're naked, and then we eat. It'll be a good commercial.
It will be, for sure.
Hey, why are you really naked? You didn't have to be all the way naked. We were pretend.
It's supposed to, I wanted it to be like realistic, you know, like Daniel Day-Lewis or something.
Well, one thing you can keep the chair after this. Where's the director?
What's the problem? What is your guys' problem? It's fine.
What? Why's he naked?
I told him we were doing a naked commercial at your house.
This is like the worst porno flick ever.
Naked Dave. Look at Dave.
It really is good.
If you want bold flavor that doesn't hold back, try Naked Dave's seasoning and sauces. Find it at your local Hy-Vee grocery store. Ask your grocer to carry it or order online today at www.littlewolffoods.com. And remember, Naked Dave's, you don't have to be naked to use it.
All right, and we're back.
So I want to.
That might be the first time Tim's seen it, I think.
It is the first time I've seen this. I do want to let our listeners know, if you're a listener, be grateful if you are watching this on our YouTube channel through our other channels. I apologize for the nightmare fuel that you have now seen. That is a lot more of any of those gentlemen that I needed to see, Chris included. Wow. Okay. Well,
let's segue into this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Erin, you mentioned, what is a journalist anymore, right? I'm up here in Minneapolis, and not to get too much into what's going on here right now, but there's obviously a wider array of what is a journalist. And we've also seen through our news stations up here, I would say, a pretty larger turnover or churn in on-air talent than what we grew up with, right? So we grew up with, the same anchor on the 5 o'clock or the 10 o'clock news for our entire childhood, right?
Yeah.
There was a generation that grew up with you as a steady face in Central Iowa, Erin. You're not really seeing that anymore. So I guess part A is maybe just talk about the state of news in general, and B, kind of get into that point that Chris alluded to before he so rudely assaulted our eyes.
And pay the bills.
Right.
Oh yeah. No, well, there's one bill in that ad that doesn't need to be paid for that. But yes, if you could go ahead and kind of talk through your journey then, as well as figuring out what's next for you.
Sure. So I guess sort of going back to the beginning, for someone my age, right? So I graduated from college in 1996. I am 52. And to be able to start my career in a market the size of Des Moines was rare. I mean, usually you had to go to some really, really small places to get started. And then, for a lot of people, they would have a city in mind where they wanted to end up, or, maybe they aspired to be on network news, whatever it might be. But most people in this business then would do like market hopping from market to market. Now, for me, growing up, where I grew up in Northwest Nebraska, we actually got Denver news. So you could either watch Scottsbluff news or you could watch Denver news. So we watched Denver news for the most part. And so I always thought that that's where I wanted to be, was in Denver. And really, it was completely by accident that I was able to start my career in Des Moines. I had this internship at Channel 13 that had, by happenstance, turned into a part-time job because one of the very young green reporters had quit. And she had a couple of franchise pieces that she did. One was called Good Kids Doing Great Things. And then the other one was this thing on Fridays that we recorded called Happenings. And it was to let people know what was happening over the weekend. If you can imagine such a thing that you would put on the TV, because that's how people were getting information, not on this, So anyway, the news director said to me, hey, I'd like you to start doing these couple of things, whatever. And so this was during my senior year at Drake. And I naively thought that this was going to go on indefinitely, because then I was also getting called in periodically. Hey, can you come in and do a story on the weekend? Whatever. And they would pair me with a lot of the more experienced photographers to go out and do stuff and kind of babysit me. Well, the week of graduation, the news director called me into his office, and it was like this. You have grown so much. I'm so proud of you. You know, I really can't wait to see what happens with your career in this industry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there going, what is happening here? And it was, good luck to you. We're all wrapped up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was totally flat-footed, had not sent out a single resume, hadn't looked at any job openings anywhere, nothing. So I packed up my stuff and moved to Denver with my best friend from college who was going out there to go to law school. And I waited tables and I taught aerobics classes. And every week my parents would ask me, hey, you know that journalism degree we helped buy? Do you think you're ever going to use that thing? And bottom line is I was having way too much fun in Denver and just screwing around, basically. And then a woman I knew from Channel 13 contacted me and said, hey, there's a job opening at Channel 5. And I'm going to run your resume tape, a VHS tape, over to the news director. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Because I kind of half-heartedly looked at some different jobs, whatever, and they were these far-flung, teeny tiny places all over the country. And anyway, I got called for an interview, came back to Des Moines, interviewed for this job at Channel 5, got this job at Channel 5. So then I was full circle back in Des Moines. And then from Channel 5, I actually took a part-time job at Channel 8 after applying for a lot of full-time jobs there and not getting them. And so I, was sort of like, you say jump, I say how high kind of girl. That was me, like I'll go anywhere, I'll do anything. You call me day, night, something's on fire, something's, wrecked on the interstate. It's 20 below, whatever, I'm your girl. And so I did that for a few years. And then the weekend anchor left and I got the weekend anchor, evening anchor job. So then I was reporting 3 days a week, anchoring 2 days a week. And then again, just randomly, Dan Winters had worked with me at Channel 8 when he was still in college at Iowa State. He ended up getting hired at Channel 13. And after he had been at Channel 13 for, 6 months or so, he calls me up and he's like, hey, the news director wants to talk to you. My boss wants to talk to you. And I was like, about what? And that's how it happened. So, but that is very unusual. I mean, particularly for somebody my age. Like I said, most people, like typically I would have started, like I had a job offer in Sioux City for, I think it was $11,000 a year doing what we call one-man banding. People now call it being a multimedia journalist. It has a fancy name now, but it's still the same, what.
Yeah.
It's a sandwich. And you're out there by yourself and lugging all your gear. You edit everything. You write everything. You shoot your own stand-ups, like everything by yourself. And it is hard. So really what saved me from that job in Sioux City was Channel 5. So instead I got to one-man band at Channel 5.
So you still got all that experience behind the camera, in front of the camera, behind the desk, on the beat. You still got a lot of those things. You just didn't have to do it all at once.
All over the country. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, do the farm report in no offense to the fine folks in Sioux City, but that was literally the very first market I thought of when you said usually you start off in a smaller market. Having family in Northwest Iowa, I have watched that news and very much appreciate that is its thing. Okay, so that's kind of how you got into where you were at. So maybe talk a little bit more about the evolution then from getting now established into your career to where you are today.
Well, again, I think I was sort of a different animal in this way, in that I was really never interested in being an anchor because I love reporting and I totally subscribe to that. Everybody has a story, and I love telling that story and, doing those little reveals and like, oh, whoa, like I didn't see that coming sort of thing. And I just love the whole process. I love working with photojournalists who are really good at their craft and, kind of tag teaming that process and putting together really cool stuff. So even though I had gotten this main anchor job at Channel 13, originally I was hired to do the 6 and 10 with John Bachman. I kept reporting straight out of the gate from the jump. I had a 1-year non-compete, so I had to sit out for a year. And during that time, I was going out in the field with reporters. There were a bunch of us that got hired at the same time. And so I would go out in the field with some of those people, help some of the ones who were less experienced than I was at that point in time. I turned some special reports that I wasn't able to put my name and face on, but then I would pass it off to somebody else and, get like a producer credit or something like that. And then even once I was on the desk full time, I just could not pass up, like when a good story idea, came into the general news inbox or somebody contacted me directly. I have to scratch that itch. So I continued doing that and had so much fun and a lot of heartbreak along the way too, telling just some really gut-wrenching stories that people had to share. Everybody goes through really hard stuff, everyone. So doing that kind of storytelling, but what was happening here more recently is it was becoming more and more challenging for me to do that because we had fewer and fewer and fewer resources, whether it was people on the air, reporters and anchors, whether it's producers. When I first started there, every producer produced a show. And as I exited there, every producer was producing 2 shows, which, if you had told us 20 years ago that could even be a thing, people would be like, how can you even do that? Like, is that even possible? But that's kind of what's happening in newsrooms all over the country. This is not specific to Channel 13. Like, the resources are just not there. And it's this constant, you got to do more with less, more with less, more with less. And then not just do more with less, but like we kept adding more and more and more hours of programming that we were responsible for filling.
Yeah. 4 o'clock news and 5 o'clock news and all of the, for sure. And you guys were on Channel 17 for a while. And
the 9 o'clock show, the morning show starting at 4 in the morning or whatever the hell it is. Oh, God save us.
Right.
It's a lot. And so I was finding that a lot of days I was more frustrated than anything else. And I didn't like feeling that way. And I'm also very much if I'm in the room, if I'm in the building, like I'm trying to plug all the holes. I'm trying to do all the things. I'm trying to, be a producer, be an editor, be a writer, tell somebody to go shoot the breaking news that I hear on the scanner, like whatever. That's crazy. You can't do that. So,
Let me ask you this. You said everybody has a story. At what point did you realize that you had a story? Because I think a lot of people have popped up on your radar because of Michael and that beginning of that story and things like that and how open you are about it. At what point did you decide that maybe you had the story and you should tell that?
Well, that happened a long time ago, way before Michael Francis was even a glimmer. And I always say this, it sounds really awful, but it's just the truth. I had a story that I was very closely guarding, and desperately keeping a secret. And I was outed by a Des Moines Register reporter. And super nice guy, by the way. But here's how that happened. My husband had run for the Des Moines City Council, and he won. And that race got a lot of attention. It was a really interesting primary just because of the people that were involved. And anyway, Michael ended up winning, youngest Allard City Councilman ever. Anyway, it got a lot of attention. And my, I guess, loyalty to him during that whole thing got a lot of attention and was kind of a controversy at the time, which, now 20 years later, more than 20 years later, I can understand. But at the time I was very much like, he's my husband. Like, what, why is this a thing? And anyway, it's not as if I was going on TV every night and saying, I'm Erin Kiernan, you should vote for my husband. It wasn't like that. But anyway, all of that is to say that a few weeks, maybe a week after the election, Michael calls me up and he's like, hey, this reporter from the Register is going to be coming over to the house. He wants to do a story post-election, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, whatever. And, when is it happening? And I didn't even think I needed to be there for it. And Michael said, oh no, they said they want you to be there. Okay. So we set this up and I'm, preparing to just take a very doting wife sort of role in this whole thing. And the guy's asking Michael questions and talking about his childhood growing up around politics and all this stuff. And then he turns to me and he says, well, Erin, I had the nicest conversation with your mom. And I was, what? My mom in Chadron, Nebraska? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, she just went on and on about, how you were the perfect child, athlete, straight A student, church every Sunday, played the piano, blah, blah, like my resume from birth through whatever. Then he says, but she did say there were some bumps along the road in high school. And I could feel all the blood draining out of my body. And I felt like I was going to vomit, pass out. I mean, all the things. The room is spinning. And I'm just sitting there shell-shocked. And Michael reaches over and, grabs my hand. And he's like, you say or don't say whatever you want. And long story short, I ended up sharing this story of getting pregnant in high school and giving my son up for adoption when I was 16, and that I still had a relationship with him and his family, that the whole thing had been open and, we were all still a part of each other's lives, so on and so forth. But that is how I first learned I had any sort of story to share, because when that thing, first of all, I was nauseous, sick, beside myself,
of course,
waiting for this thing to come out. And then when it did, I read it and I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it was just so done with such care and empathy. It was really nice. And still, I was terrified to leave the house.
Of course.
The first person I interacted with, other than Michael, that day was one of our neighbors who showed up at our door sobbing, holding the newspaper, saying to me, this is me. This is a secret I have been hiding for,
Wow.
decades for her, decades. I mean, I think she's my parents' age. So that was my first inkling of oh, wow, this might have some sort of impact. Then I go to the Y to teach my fitness class, which I was kicking myself for. I was like, why didn't I get a sub for this class? What's wrong with me? I hit the door of the Y, and people are like, oh my God, I read the paper, blah, blah, blah. People are coming up to me crying. I'm like, okay. I mean, I just very quickly got a read for how impactful it is when you're vulnerable and you share whatever your truth is.
Sure.
And particularly when it's something like that is sort of, do you guys ever swear on here?
Oh yeah. We saw naked people. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have a disclaimer at the beginning. It's all good.
Anyway, when it's something that's sort of a holy shit moment, and people are like, "Oh my God!" Like I never would have guessed that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was the first one for me.
And then you were pretty open about when Michael came along and his diagnosis and things like that, which is, I think you and I have talked a little bit about it. I have 2 boys, stepsons that have Williams syndrome, a very rare disease. And what I caught mostly when you were on your FMLA was you were quite prevalent on social media channels, talking about it and talking about the challenges of not just what Michael goes through, but what families go through and things like that, which I found very important. And that's kind of where I'm getting at with that. When you become the story, you seem to have really, at least in my impression, the last year, really taking on a really forefront of social media presence and so on to talk about those challenges. Tell me why that was so important.
Yeah. Well, backing up, Michael and I didn't talk about it for years. It was another closely guarded secret, honestly. And I think it's because we were so, I use the analogy drinking from a fire hose, it took us so long just to get a diagnosis. And then once you do, it's just this onslaught of information and, people telling you, you got to do this, you got to, get in this therapy, that therapy, go here, do this, try this school, on and on and on. And, all you want as a parent is for your kid to be okay. And so it's just, overwhelming, emotionally charged, very dark time for us. So not only did I not share about it on social media or TV, we weren't really even sharing it with very many people personally for years. And then I think it was another mom's social media post that I saw I don't know why I remember that it was 2021, but that's when it was. And she basically shared why she shares about her son, who is autistic. And it was just really powerful the way she said, I do it for my son because I want him to be seen and understood. And I want, at large, this diagnosis to be more understood. I do it for all the other parents out there who are struggling and need, to feel this community of support and understanding. And by that point in time, too, I had some other people sort of nudge me saying, I think you should be talking about this. Because I was sharing some things with them about what we were dealing with. And they were like, I had no idea. Like, I didn't know that was part of autism. I didn't know that was something you would deal with or that would affect Michael Francis. Right. So that's what led to my first social media post. And then later on, what happened to me is I was actually interviewing 2 journalists, capital J journalists from, I think they wrote CBS News for a long time, producer and reporter pair, who had done a documentary about autism. And in fact, they profiled the very first man in America ever diagnosed with autism. It's a great, great documentary. It's called In a Different Key, if anyone's interested in watching it, or they wrote a book as well. So first there was the book and then this documentary. And the mom was the producer in this duo, and she was really rough edged, like a no BS kind of lady. And she got right up in my face, like, are you doing stories about autism? And I was like, I'm doing this story. I'm here interviewing you. They were doing a screening in Des Moines of the movie. And she's like, that's not what I mean. And I mean, she was like aggressive, assertive. And I was a little scared of her. And I was like, well, no. And she's like, you need to. And essentially said, like, it's your job to do this. It's incumbent upon you to do this. And so then I did with a great photojournalist partner of mine, Randy Schumacher, whose son happens to be autistic. We did this multi-part series. I don't know how many parts it ended up being, 8, 10. I mean, it was long.
Yeah.
And that was really like the cracking open of the whole thing beyond social media. And again, the floodgates that opened in terms of people reaching out to me and sharing their own experiences, or conversely saying, I had no idea.
Right.
Thank you for doing these stories because I didn't know any of this. And of course, that's what I feel my job is as a journalist, right? So anyway, that was kind of the backstory. But then, yes, I did sort of a pledge last April during Autism Awareness Month that I was going to post a reel on Instagram every single day about autism. And it felt really daunting to me. And like, how can I do that? Is that even possible? But I was like, Erin, a reel is like 30 freaking seconds.
Right.
You produce stories that are 10 minutes long. Like, get a grip. It doesn't have to be, a Murrow award-winning story.
Right. And some of them weren't.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what happened. And the response to all of that has been really amazing. It hasn't all been positive, of course, it never is. But.
Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. I knew that you have some time, but two things that I want to point out. One, I remember that we were at a conference for the boys and we were learning about, we went to this talk about housing, and we're sitting in there and they're talking about this building that they have that has all these facilities and all this stuff and all this great stuff. And my wife and I are sitting there going, okay, here's a chance the boys might have. And then they drop the price and it's like $8,000 a month. And you're like, okay, well, you just cut 95% of the people in this room. And then we talked a lot about, like, we're college educated. We're fairly intelligent. And the amount of understanding that you have to have about the government red tape and this program and that program and this funding and that funding confuses us.
Yes.
Like every month
I am confused every day.
Every month we get nervous. Every year we get nervous when we have to fill out the guardianship papers that we're going to fill it out correctly.
What age are your boys?
They are 22.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's something. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on the lack of resources, particularly when you start talking. Michael Francis is 10. And I know people think this is hyperbole or me, being a drama queen, but every single day, my husband and I worry about what is going to happen to this kid when we are not here anymore. Because
100%.
Without some, this might be hyperbole, but miracle, cure, as it were, or treatment, it's evident that he is going to need support his entire life. He will not live independently.
Right.
And most people don't have to think about that. Like, we all worry about our kids. I worry about Audrey, of course. But frankly, I could drop that kid in the middle of downtown right now and she'd be fine.
Right.
Like, she has all the skills. She's, she's a little mini adult already. And that's in large part because of being the younger sibling to a child with a disability. But yeah, we could talk so much about the lack of resources, no housing, no supportive housing, We've done away with this institutionalized model of caring for people with mental illness, with disabilities, which sounds great, right? No one likes that model. It really sucked in a lot of ways. But what are we going to do with all of these people?
Right. Like it's a scary thing for people. I'm going to get you out of here. We're going to skip the last two segments, but I want to finish with this question. The question is you talked about Audrey. Talk real quick, real briefly about how hard it is to parent her, because I know in my case, like we have Caitlin, we rely on Caitlin so much that sometimes it's a little unfair.
Yeah. Yeah. How old's Caitlin?
She's 24.
Okay. So she's 2 years older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when she was younger, it was, well, you're okay. We got to take care of the boys, or we have to do for the boys. And she would feel left out, or she wouldn't feel as seen as the boys.
Constantly.
And it was really unfair.
It's constant. And it is a constant juggling act of, making sure, like in Michael Francis's case, that, he doesn't seriously hurt himself, burn the house down, whatever, run away, drown, all these things, dealing with all of the red tape, whether it's at school, service, government services, all of this kind of stuff. Like, it's so time consuming. And yes, trying to give your fully capable, able-bodied, neurotypical child the attention and support that they deserve. It is a constant tugging back and forth, and you always feel like you're failing one of them, or at least I do, and I know Michael feels the same way. We've tried to do a lot more with, like, taking her and doing things by herself. Or, we go places and we always have an exit plan for Michael Francis, because, it might sound like a really great idea to go visit Santa, or to go roller skating, or to go to a basketball game, or go get ice cream, or go to Costco, or fill in the freaking blank with whatever it is. But the reality is, a lot of times he can't take it. And, like, we now have learned the hard way after many, many years of trying to force some of these things. You either just have to make a different plan, or you have to have an exit plan. So, like, we go in ahead of time, like, okay, who is going to leave when he starts melting down? Who's leaving? Are we taking 2 separate cars? Are we going to leave? And then you call us when you're, you need us to pick you up. What is the deal? Now, a few times we have gotten a babysitter just for him, but I hate doing that. I really hate just like totally leaving him home while the 3 of us go do something together, but we have done that a few times. But yeah, I mean, it's just constant. And we only sort of joke around that Audrey has, like, abandonment issues, because I am not kidding you. When she was a baby still, like, in the car seat, that has the handle on it that you snap in and out of the car. And I was working night side then, and I would take them to a park, and she'd be sitting in the car seat on the ground, and boom, Michael Francis would just take off. And, did I mention I'm 52? And, so I'm like sprinting, running after him, dying. I love, by the way, that your show is old man strength. I'm like, I'm here with old lady strength. Okay. I would literally just leave her sitting in the middle of a playground to go chase after him, because, you're having to, you have to choose, like, well, what am I going to do here? And that has happened to her over and over and over again her whole life, where people abandon her to chase after him. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Erin. I really appreciate it. We're going to let you go. We'll finish the show up here. But I can't thank you so much for your advocacy and for your honesty and for taking the time to come and talk to us. So
I really appreciate it. And I'm grateful for your patience in not giving up on me.
No.
and yeah, just letting me share. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we only really scratched the surface on a lot of things. We'd love to have you back on at some point. If you'd be up to it. So much more to talk about. But as again, I echo what Chris said. We very much appreciate your openness and your honesty. And it has just been an absolute pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, she just scratched the surface, just like you said, Tim. But we've talked about the boys before and the challenges that they have, and the services that they have available and things like that. And even just this week, the boys' job coaches are they're funding his run out, and they work at Top Golf, but they work one day a week, and it's barely, when they get there, they just let them stand there because they don't really have anything for them. It's hard to find a space for them. It really is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think not to get too political, but I think right now we have such a weird climate in talking about this whole idea with, oh, we want to blame this for autism or that for autism, or autism didn't exist 20 years ago or 30 years ago, 40, all this other bullshit that's out there about it, even under the guise of advocacy, is really just spreading more misinformation and misunderstanding and mistrust. And even those with the best of intentions, now I don't believe that everyone has the best of intentions, but even those with the best of intentions is not helping the cause for people to really be able to understand, right? Erin mentioned barring some miracle cure, but I think really she also talked about, this is neurodivergent. This is seeing people and meeting people where they are at.
Right.
In any time, especially when it's these, something like ASD, which is a spectrum, and understanding there's not a one size fits all solution to these things, or a one size way to manage these things. I think that's why it's more important than ever that we talk about the reality of those situations, so that people can be more patient, more understanding, more willing to help, more willing to listen. And really just understanding, again, meeting everyone where they are at.
Well, and to her point, and we'll end it on this, but she said so many people would come up and whatever else. I got a text message from Sean, who is the producer for Tracking the Storm, Sean Jankowski.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to know when we were going with Erin, and he said I was only wondering, as Erin's been such a great advocate. As a person on the spectrum myself, it's just very appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
So there you are. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. It's been a special episode. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Tune in to the rest of the craziness that goes on here on Three Beers Media Network. We have Billy and Willie's workshop, where I'm pretty sure they're clothed in every episode.
I really, oh God, I hope so. That was already disturbing.
Of course, Tracking the Storm. They just released their episode with Jeff Hornacek. That show is doing great. Julia at Fashion Shit Show Diaries. We're going strong here at Three Beards Media. 2026 be even better. Tim, we are out of here.
Old and strength, built to last. Try to break me, you won't get past. Ain't no quit, ain't no doubt. You don't know tough till you've been worn out. We'll make it